Hi there, Michelle Shelton with Life Real Estate. I'm the designated broker. I'm also part of Team Shelton. I work with my daughter, Emma. And today we are going to be interviewing one of our favorite lenders. We do have some other favorites, but Thom is definitely one of our favorite lenders. And I think that you'll enjoy hearing directly from him so you can get a feel for who he is. Definitely important if you are buying a home to have a great lender in your pocket. If you like this video, click the thumbs up and also subscribe. And if you'd like to receive regular videos from us, please hit that bell so that you can get notified every time we release one. And let's go jump in and talk to Emma Shelton and Thom. I'm here today with Emma Shelton, and we've got Thom. He is our favorite lender. Don't tell our other favorite lenders that we said that. But he's kind of our go-to. We've worked with you. How long, Jared?
It's been several years. Yeah.
And I just love your practical approach and the way that I love honesty. And so I know you've had clients where they've called you and you're like, no, you need to pay cash. I can't help you. I can help you, but I don't want to help you because it's not the best way to do it.
I can help you, but it's not the best for you. Exactly.
Right. So I do love that and appreciate that about you. Emma and I know you pretty well. We've spent many conversations on the phone. But I'd actually like the folks out there to be able to get to know you a little bit. So give us some background. Where are you from originally? Are you from Arizona?
No, I'm not. I grew up in Michigan, in the Thom area of Michigan, so about 70 miles north of Detroit, and grew up on a farm. My dad and grandpa both farmed. And so growing up, we had a couple thousand acres that we would, or maybe slightly less than that at times, but around a couple thousand acres that we would farm. And then we had beef cattle, and it was a great way to grow up. And I just decided though, after college, I decided that it wasn't really something I loved enough to stay there. I like farming and I like the rural kind of background, but from the standpoint of, making it in the world, it was a pretty tough decision to make to leave, but I did. And my sister lived in Arizona. So in 2003, I moved here and then started applying for jobs. And she happened to know a gentleman who was in the mortgage world who had an office, needed a processor. And so that's how I ended up in mortgage.
Well, that's good. You started out as a processor, right? You get to learn a lot that way.
Yeah, you learn all the guidelines and you kind of learn the behind the scenes inner workings of why things are in a file. And from the standpoint of structuring a file or later on now as a loan originator, it's a real strength because a lot of originators are good salespeople, but they don't know the guidelines that well, or even sometimes where to get the answers to their questions. And so they struggle. And with me coming from more of the ops background where I did know the guidelines, I'm not as salesy of a person, but I know the guidelines really well. And I like being able to problem solve things and try and fix credit, do what I need to do to help people get into homes.
That seems way more important than selling them a loan.
Yeah, I mean,
for sure.
Sales is good because that's effectively what we are, is we're salespeople. But I don't want to sell the person. I want to help the person. I don't necessarily want to sell them. You guys sell them homes. The product sells itself, right? You find them a nice home that fits their needs. That's it. And so same with mortgage. Everybody needs, or typically people need financing for purchasing a home. And so we want to do the best we can to accommodate that. And they shouldn't feel like they're ever being sold. It should be more of like, hey, we're a team and I want to establish a relationship with you that we can have forever.
Right. And sales is service, right? I think
Correct.
Of what, Emma and I have discussed, we're selling our clients to the other agent. So the other agent can sell them why they're the best client for that home, and why they're the best one. And so I feel like sales comes in when there's a problem. It's like, now we got to figure out how we're going to get this done. So we're going to call and enroll other people to help me do this. So,
Yep.
Okay. So you've been a lender for how long?
So this will be my 20th year. Starting, assuming you consider the time that I was a processor and kind of did some underwriting, it would have been 2003 is when I started in this business. And so this year will be my 20th year.
How many loan companies have you been with? Have you been with a few or?
So I started out a small broker shop and that there were 3 partners. And so they ended up splitting up. And then one of the partners opened a different mortgage shop and I just transitioned with him until the point where the mortgage industry contracted in 2007. And the company that we were with at that time ended up laying off the majority of their ops people and they centralized everything. And so that included me. And so 2007 was kind of a rough year because from 2003 till early 2007, everything in the mortgage world had been great. And when April 2007 hit and the kind of the market started to collapse, all the ops people got laid off. I happened to be one of them. And so then I actually took a little bit of time off because it was just applying for mortgage jobs at that point was kind of pointless because nobody was really hiring ops people. And I ended up doing some handyman work with a friend of mine who ran like a little handyman construction business. I did that for a couple of months and then was applying all the time at different places. And I ended up getting hired as a personal banker at Bank of America, where I worked for a little over a year and until the mortgage world started to straighten around. And so in 2009, I came back into being a mortgage broker again. And with the same guy I had been with previously, he had reset up a mortgage shop and he and I had a good relationship, still do, and was able to work with him for another couple of years until I decided I needed to have or be with a company that could help me scale my business. The one problem that I had as a mortgage broker at that time, the technology wasn't that great. And so you couldn't scale your business. You could only do a certain number of loans each month. And Nova was very good about being able, like if I ended up doing 10 loans a month to 15 to 20, they'll scale up the processing so that I can continue to do more business and focus on originating versus, focusing on all the processing stuff like I would have had to at the mortgage broker shop.
Cool.
So, and that's how I ended up here.
So you're with Nova now, and kind of tell us a little bit about your role there. Do you have a team, an assistant? How does that kind of work?
Yeah, so I'm with Nova Home Loans, and Nova's been around since like the late 70s. So they've made it through the ups and downs of the mortgage world, and very healthy company. And at this point, I started with them as a loan originator, loan officer, but I've now transitioned into being a loan officer and a branch manager for them. So I manage their Chandler, Arizona office.
And tell me about you have a team or an assistant.
Yeah, I have an assistant. Her name is Kara. We hired her in 2020 to come on our team, and she's a great loan officer. She's been a loan officer for almost 10 years. And so between she and I mean, almost 30 years of experience in the mortgage world. And we just, very intertwined, I guess. Like anything I can do, she can pretty much do, and we help each other out. If I'm out of town, she can handle anything. She's always available to take questions if I'm not, and we can keep files working through.
Sounds kind of like us.
Yeah. Well, you need somebody dependable. You do. You need help because you can't do everything yourself in this world.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I know one of the things I love about you, because I see this as an integrity thing, is your marriage. You always speak very highly of your wife. So you've been married, you have kids.
Yes. Yep, absolutely.
And for me, it's kind of like wherever I go, there I am. So if I'm having challenges over here, they usually pop up over here as well. And so one of the things I love is that Tasha have a great relationship from what I have seen. I mean, I've only met her the one time, and that was when we popped by for your birthday. But, I love that. I love how you talk about her. We know the things that set you apart from other lenders because we work with other lenders all the time on our listings. And what do you think sets you apart from other lenders?
Well, I mean, you kind of said it earlier. I want to be very open and transparent and trustworthy with my clients. And I want them to know that I definitely empathize with them. I've been a home buyer. I'm also a lender, but I've been a home buyer before. And this process isn't always the most it's not the most easy process to get through at times. And when people feel like care about them, which I do, I want to treat my clients like they're my family members. Like you want somebody who's in your corner helping you through this process. And so that's what I try to do. So it's a very service oriented, I guess for me, it's very service oriented. If you treat people right, people will treat you right. And so most of my business has grown based on referral because I take care of people, and I'll answer my phone at 9 o'clock at night if they need me to, or 6 a.m. if they need me to. And I'll, do what it takes to try and, make it happen for them, because I know it's, home ownership is one of the most important investments you can make in your life. And it also can be very life changing, because it's one of the best sources of wealth creation that we have available to us. And so it seems like, it's my first home, but it's not just their first home, it's their first investment as well. And I like to be able to help them with that, and even kind of walk them through like, hey, when you buy a house, this is your first house, this is a stepping stone. Next year or the year after, as you start a family, as your family grows, you can, scale up and you turn this one into a rental. And then that's how it all starts. And I'm willing to take the time to really connect with the clients and explain all that to them, because I feel like it's important. I would want somebody to explain it to me.
Yeah. I think you're good at explaining it. Emma and I were laughing last night with an agent we were working with, because all of us were working like at 9:30 at night. And it's like, who the heck set this up that real estate is 24/7, 365 days a year,
Yeah.
But I do tell people when we're talking about you, I'm like, look, if you're dealing with Wells Fargo or Chase or, some big lender, and you don't have a point person in Arizona and you're wanting to come from out of state and bring that lender, number one, it's hard to negotiate, because a lot of times the listing agents do not want to go with somebody who's using an out-of-state lender. So there's that piece. Right. But then there's that relationship piece. Even though the client may have a relationship with someone in their, up in North Dakota or someplace, they don't, we have the relationship here. And if I pick up the phone and call their guy in North Dakota, he may not operate the same way that I do. So I think it's really important. I tell people, look, Jared answers his phone at 8 o'clock at night. Please don't call him at 8 o'clock at night. But I know if I need to,
it makes Tasha super happy. Let me tell you.
Sure. Because we try to, we want to have a life as well. It's healthy to be able to be with your family and things. But we also know that if our hair's on fire and something really big is happening and the next day is slammed and we can't get through, the next day, that you will answer your phone. And I appreciate it.
And that's something I learned from my dad. My dad was very big on getting phone calls returned. He was a small business owner. So in addition to farming, we also had a factory, and we had, we had an installation business for drainage pipe. And so, if you missed a call, they'll call the next contractor to do it. And so he was very big on, making sure that he answered his phone. And I think he was one of the first people I ever knew who had an answering machine and got voicemail set up quickly, because for him, it was, that one call could be, something big. And if you miss it, then somebody else is going to get it. And so I'm kind of wired that way too, just because of him. It's, the first person you speak with is typically the person you go with about 80% of the time.
And I would say that is where your work ethic comes from, because I think you have a great work ethic, quite frankly. I think that's one of your greatest qualities, and it's hard to come by nowadays, for sure.
You mentioned a couple of things that just kind of brought some things to my mind. A lot of times people, when they are reaching out to a lender, or they know they're going to want to be buying in like 6 months, they're hesitant to reach out to that lender, because we always recommend you, but they're like, I'm not ready yet. I'm not there yet. And one thing that I think you do that is so great is you talk to people and you give them strategies on how to get ready and be in the place that they want to be and know where they are right now, because it's really hard to get from point A to point B when you don't know where point A even is. So kind of talk about that a little bit and where you decided to do that.
Well, that I think kind of stems from my processing background, because as I was processing files, I would have loan officers drop files on my desk, and they, were like, hey, get this file going. It's a great deal. And then I would start digging through pay stubs, right? Start digging through the assets, or start looking at the credit history. And there were things that were missed, and there were things that maybe the client wasn't as qualified as the loan officer thought. And so it ended up in, either backtracking, refiguring it out, or even declining them because it wasn't, something that we could take care of. And so once I transitioned into a loan origination, I always tell people there's, the time to apply is now, because even if you're 6 to 12 months out, I would rather talk to you now, get an application now, understand who you are right now. Because like you said, Emma, I mean, if you don't know where you're starting, and you know where you want to go, but if you don't know where you're starting from, it's really hard to get to where you want to go, because you don't even know where you're starting from. And so taking a full application, talking with people through through what they have for assets and income, and maybe they're going to switch a job, maybe they've got a family member who's going to gift them, but unless you really talk to them, they don't know exactly what they need until you tell them, and then we don't know what they have available for us to qualify them unless they tell us. And so that initial conversation is super important. So I try to get it done right away, and I'm okay with the long game. I mean, if it takes 6 months, 12 months, I'm not a pushy person. If they have questions, they're always free to call me, and I'll periodically follow up with them. Like, for example, we have credit services at Nova. And so there's a lot of people who have damaged credit that needs to be adjusted. It takes time to pay down balances, or it takes time for collections to drop off credit or charge-offs. And so we will put them into our credit plan, and the credit team will keep touching them periodically until they get to the point where they're qualified. And then they push them back to me and say, hey, they're ready to go. And then we know that they're a qualified buyer at that point. Yeah. So just the initial strategy is super important, and just, I don't know, like anybody asks me, when should I apply? It's right now. Let's talk.
And I love that, because you helped me personally and with my finances so much when we were selling that house. And then I just did a loan with you recently, and I was always calling you, and I'm like, okay, which credit card should I pay off? How much should I pay? And you were so helpful, and it never felt like you were like annoyed by my questions. You're like, all right, here's what you got to do. Let's do this. Let me look at this. And I just loved that, because it's like, there's no judgment there with you, which sometimes when you're getting into like finances and stuff, that can be a touchy subject for people. Yeah. And so I think that it's really great that you don't have any judgment, and you're always there just like helping people reach their goals and figure out what their goals are. So.
Well, I think I learned that from my dad at a young age too, because when you're running a farming operation, or you're, if you're going to go down and maybe plow that field, well, maybe somebody already did something in that field. So we always tended to just ask, that one more question, like, hey, this is what I'm planning on doing today. Is that still what you want me to do? Because it avoided the mess ups. And so, just always double checking. I think it actually kind of annoys my wife at times, because I will ask her something again, and she's like, we've already talked about this. And I'm like, yeah, but I just want to make sure, So with people, with finances, I mean, I don't think any question's a dumb question. I'll tell people the same answer 10 times and not get annoyed, because if that's what it takes for them to process, or for them to be comfortable and just really be reassured that this is what needs to happen, then I'm happy to do it.
Yeah.
Well, I think Emma touched on something too, the non-judgment, because I think when people are getting a loan, it's almost like a biopsy of their life. Yeah. You're really zooming in and looking at every single financial cell there is. And it can be intimidating and scary. Yep. And sometimes people are embarrassed of things that, decisions they made in the past that reflect on their credit report. And I really don't think they need to be with you. I don't feel like you're judgmental. You're just like looking at it like, okay, this is where we are. What do we need to do to take care of it and solve it? So I think that's a really good place to come from.
Yeah. And credit's one of those tough issues too, because a lot of people don't understand credit and how to build credit, how to correct credit. And it does impact their entire life. I mean, whether you know it or not, your credit card rates, your home insurance rates, your car insurance rates, everything in your life is impacted by credit now. And it's so important to be able to help people understand credit.
I remember I was like paying off my credit cards and then closing them, paying off my credit. And they're like,
don't do that.
Closing them, don't close them. I was like,
Yeah.
really? I didn't, I didn't understand it. So just those little nuggets of information that I've learned from you over the years have been great. What is your favorite thing about your job?
Honestly, I think my favorite thing is seeing the joy that people have when they actually close on their house. I mean, I guess it's kind of commonplace for us to maybe jump on Amazon and buy something and you get it. And it's just, we have this society where everything is right now, and we can go through a drive-through and get a meal, and we can order stuff on Amazon and it's delivered today. But a home is one of those purchases that it takes time to get there, and it's the biggest purchase that most people ever make in their lives. And so when they finally achieve it and they're so happy about it, that makes me feel good. It's what makes me tick, is knowing that my clients are happy and that I was able to help them get into that house and hopefully establish a relationship for life, because that's what it's all about for me.
What kind of realtors do you like to work with?
That's a tough question. All of them.
I'm sure you'll take business, but because if it was the other way around, like if somebody calls us, obviously we want to help as many people as we can.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that it is.
I like agents who are professional. If I could say it that way, the agents who do real estate full time and it's their career, they take pride in it. They're the ones who are they're the most fulfilling ones to work with, because they know what they're doing. They know what I'm supposed to do. I know what they're supposed to do. We work as a team. We're good. You sometimes get the agents who they're part-time. They're busy on something else. And so they end up throwing off some of the stuff on you that they don't want to deal with. And so, I still work with them, obviously, because it's business, but it's always nice to work with agents who are professional and know their job well.
Because I'm assuming, I know this from dealing with you, that sometimes people will come directly to the lender and they don't have a realtor yet. So correct. You want to make sure they get hooked up with somebody who is professional, knows their stuff, and can take really good care of them.
And somebody who can relate to them, because personality in business, personality is a big thing. And I try to be very relatable to people. I can't say that I've always won every transaction, because sometimes a relationship, like if they, I lost one transaction, I can tell you, because the guy was in like a triathlon group. And so he found out through one of the people in the group that somebody else in the group was a realtor. And he said, hey, I'm going to use this guy. It's not because, I didn't, that was a lender, but the point is, people will go where there's a relationship. And so he ended up going away from me, not because he didn't like my rates or didn't like my service. It was just because he had a personal relationship with somebody else that he didn't even know was a realtor.
No.
And so that's it, with realtors. When I refer, which I don't always get a lot of clients who haven't talked to an agent. Most people typically come with an agent, but it is important to get them set up with someone who's going to work with them and go at their pace, relate to them from a personality standpoint, and be respectful. There's a lot of people in our world who aren't necessarily most respectful. And when you're referring somebody, you want to know that you can trust the person that you're referring them to.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same way that we refer. I'm going to refer to someone that I know would take the same level of care and give the same level of service and work hard and have integrity. And it kind of sounds like, you do the same thing. Yep,
absolutely.
Yeah. I know you have, dig into your loan programs a little bit. I know on VA, you've got some special things going there that can benefit veterans. What other things do you think that Nova really shines over the others that you can share with us?
Well, I think our company shines the most just because we're very efficient at how we move people through the process. And we have a process called do it right the first time, our DERF team. And so every file that comes into our office after the loan officer touches it, takes the application, thinks it's ready for submittal, like the ones I used to get when I was a processor, they get pushed into this DERF process where there's a specific loan coordinator who goes through all the guidelines, looks at all the income, the assets, makes sure that everything is ready to go so that we have this assurance that that file will always move straight through the process without hiccups. And it's been very effective. Not to say that there's not maybe the one-offs where something did get missed, but like for the vast majority of the time, it works amazing. And I think that does set us apart from other lenders because we're not just throwing it against the wall hoping it sticks. We know when it goes into underwriting that it's ready to go.
The other thing I like is that you don't just throw out pre-qualifications. You know,
No.
a lot of lenders out there, and I didn't really realize this when I was a newbie, you know, I just be like, hey, can I get a pre-qualification? And they're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, I'm showing homes to them right now, you know?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we'd really like to meet with them. If you get somebody who's good, they kind of teach you that because in the beginning, it's, you know, as a realtor, you're learning as well.
Some things that I've been running into with either first-time home buyers or people that haven't bought in a while, they're like, well, what are they going to need from me? And they start to get kind of stressed about that paperwork aspect of it. What would be your guidance to these kind of people? What kind of things are you going to need and expect, and what can they have ready for you?
Right. Well, I always tell people that you need 4 things to get a loan. You need credit, you need income, you need assets for down payment, and you need to find the property that is going to be approvable, right? And so each of those 4 things has different aspects to it. But I mean, it starts with knowing where your credit is, and then depending on what type of income you earn. If you're self-employed, you need a 2-year history. That's the guidelines. If you're a W-2 employee, you need to have at least just a 2-year work history. It doesn't have to be at the same job, but it needs to be in, you know, you actually have to have a 2-year work history because that's what's required of the guidelines. And then, you know, the asset portion, we need to know, is it coming from gift? Have you been saving money? Do you need down payment assistance? Because we have those programs. And all of it works together because down payment assistance has different credit score requirements than a normal conventional loan or an FHA loan. So each, you know, and then credit score kind of determines how you decide which program that they're able to qualify for too. Because if someone has a 620 credit score and they're trying to put less than 5% down, it's going to be really tough to get them a good rate and good mortgage insurance factor with normal conventional financing, whereas FHA has fixed MI and it has better rates with lower credit scores. And so you kind of have to look at each individual person and decide how it goes. But that's part of that initial conversation too, is tell me about this stuff. Let's walk through your history, to your residency history, to your work history, where are the assets coming from? And then we go from there. And some of it, we need documentation more than others. I mean, if somebody is a W-2 wage earner and they know they make $20 an hour and they're 40 hours a week and they have good credit, you don't need a whole lot. I mean, it's a pay stub, a W-2, a driver's license, and then, you know, a bank statement, and we can issue a pre-qual. If they're self-employed, we may need 2 years of tax returns or 1, depending on how long they've been self-employed. And then depending on what the income shows in there, you know, there may be some other questions from the underwriter about their business or whatever, but it just depends on the person and the type of loan that they're trying to get, what we need for the process. But I try to keep it as minimal as possible. I think we all do. I mean, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who are the biggest buyers of mortgage-backed securities, they've come out over the recent years and they've slowed down what they've asked for. So when you run a file through the automated underwriting systems, it'll tell you, hey, we want 1 pay stub, 1 W-2, and that's it. Or if we can get a verification of employment through one of their automated systems, like Equifax has an automated system for verification of employment. And so Fannie Mae can read that automated verification of employment, and it can qualify the income without us even asking for a pay stub or a W-2, because it knows that it's coming from a credible source. So I don't know. I think that was a really long-winded answer, but that's the answer.
That's exactly what I kind of told them, that it depends on your situation. Yeah. It's kind of a case-by-case basis. And that's why I always recommend people go and talk to you first and have a conversation. I think it really helps put them at ease once they talk to you, and they can, you can learn their situation and kind of start guiding them in the right direction, because it can be stressful. It can. But it's much better when you're, educated on it, and you have someone in your corner that's going to help you and explain everything to you.
Yep.
It's a lot.
Well, it's nervous. People are nervous because they, if you're in a rental and you're giving up, you're having to give your 60-day notice, and you're trying to get a house bought, and then all of a sudden you find out after you've given your notice and they're already finding a new tenant for your place that, oh, you're not qualified. So knowing what they need, getting from them what we require quickly, and being able to look at it, put it through our DERF process, it just makes life easy.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, Arizona has a lot of, second home buyers as well. And I know then you've got a whole nother set of overlays. I don't know, what do you call them?
Yeah. They when it's a primary residence, it's probably the easiest loan to get because it's the lowest risk. People need a place to live. And so the foreclosure rate on primary residences is always a lot lower than second homes and investment properties, because people need a place to live. And so they're going to make their house payment before they make their car payment or the credit card payment. They'll let those payments go if they're going to let them go, but they typically make their house payment because they don't want to get kicked out of their home and have it foreclosed on. So, but yes, second home, a little bit more strict. Maybe have to put a little bit more money down. The rates are higher. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac recently came out with loan level price adjustment increases that punish second home buyers and investment property buyers, because they want people buying primaries right now. They don't want the institutional investors coming in and buying these homes and competing directly with people who are trying to be first-time home buyers. So it's always a shifting market with different loan types, and there'll be a point where this will shift back the other direction. When there's a lot of inventory on the market, it'll shift back the other direction to open it back up to second homes and investment properties, and it'll be a lot more cost effective at that point, because they're going to lighten the requirements for those type of loans.
What's the best way for somebody to track rates? Because sometimes people call me and they're like, what are the rates doing? And I'm like, I don't know, call Jared. It's just, I have people ask me those questions sometimes. And what's the best way for them to track rates?
So there's different websites that you can go to where it kind of gives you the daily average of what rates are. I have a specific website I go to called MBS Highway, where each day it shows you what the mortgage-backed securities are doing and how they're trading, as well as the treasury yields, because there's a correlation between the how the treasury yields move and what the bonds do, and it's usually an inverse relationship. And so as mortgage rates come down, the bond yields go the other way, and so we can look at that trend and we can know where rates are. So for example, since the end of October, we've seen a slow, steady decrease in interest rates. And we've seen the treasuries, correct from where they were. And so we can start over a 3 or 6 or 12-month period, we can start to look at what the trends are doing and know kind of where the market's going. And then, of course, there's economic factors like recession or inflation that cause rates to move a certain direction. Like right now, we have the Federal Reserve raising rates, which tends to freak people out, because when you're in the home buying process and you hear, hey, the Fed's going to raise rates another 0.5% or 0.75%, they're panicked and they're like, I want to get something locked in. And the funny thing is, it doesn't really work like that. I mean, the Federal Reserve raises rates on short-term debt, and can it impact the longer-term debt? Yes, but we need them raising rates right now in order to slow down inflation, because inflation is what's really has caused mortgage rates to go up. As inflation goes up, rates have to go up, because the bond market takes a beating when there's inflationary pressure. So if we can get inflation to start coming back down, which is what the Fed is doing by raising interest rates, then we start to see mortgage-backed securities come back down. And that's what we've seen since October. They started raising last year, and it takes, in a $1 trillion economy, it takes a long time for everything to catch up. But we're slowly seeing where inflation's starting to come down. Mortgage rates have started to come back down, and it's good. It puts us back in a healthier, environment for the housing market and mortgage and everything.
Why don't you tell us where people can find you, how they can contact you, any of that kind of information?
Well, I'm here at work like 12 hours a day. No, they can reach me on my cell phone. My phone number is 602-410-0069. And they could go to my website, which is www.jaredthom.com. Or that 602 number, they can also text that. So in my email, jared.thom@novahomeloans.com. So various ways they can get in touch with me, but they could also just show up to my office in downtown Chandler. Happy to talk to them.
Well, thank you, Jared. Yeah, thank you for being here with us today and taking time out of your day. I know you're swamped. Emma and I appreciate you, as you know, and we'll continue to send people to you because we know you take great care of them.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. You're welcome. Take care. Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching our interview with Jared Thom with Nova Home Loans, and also with my daughter, Emma. She's great. And we appreciate you stopping by here. We're going to be interviewing a few other lenders, so I hope you'll join us. I think you'll see the differences. All the lenders that we recommend are absolutely amazing, phenomenal, humans first. And they're great at doing the financing piece. They care about people. They care about you. And that to me is number one. We also want to get folks that we recommend that are knowledgeable and skilled at what they do. This is not their first rodeo. So I hope that you enjoyed our interview with Jared Thom. Please watch for other interviews from other skilled professionals that we use in our business and recommend that you also use. And have an amazing day. Take care. Bye.